Right, so today we're taking a deep dive into something called derivative cryptography.
Yeah.
And just from the name,
Sounds a little scary.
it sounds pretty complicated,
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah.
It's basically this area where encryption keys are created on both sides of a conversation
Yeah.
without actually having to send the keys over the internet.
Like imagine two people agree on some kind of secret code
Mm-hmm.
beforehand, and then their devices use like some math
Right.
to create matching keys without ever actually sending that code over the internet.
So it's like they already have the key, but they just don't know it yet.
Exactly. It's already there.
And then somehow they figure out how to get to it.
Right.
Okay. So we've had a ton of sources on this, and it looks
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's a couple of specific examples.
Yeah.
One is called Juggernaut Keys,
Mm-hmm.
and these are used in something called the Smoke Messenger app.
Right.
And then there are Secret Streams keys
Mm.
that power the spot-on encryption suite.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole thing about zero-knowledge proofs
Yeah.
and the Socialist Millionaire Protocol.
Right. And this even gets used to establish secure channels
Okay.
with something called SMP calling.
SMP calling.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get like too deep into all that technical stuff,
Yeah.
maybe you can kind of set the stage
Yeah.
for why this is even important. Like,
Yeah.
what's the big deal about this?
Well, our listener sent in a lot of articles and reports
Mm-hmm.
about online privacy and security.
Yeah, and there's a lot of concern.
There's a lot of concern,
Yeah,
and it seems like a lot of people are calling for like a right to encryption.
a right to encryption.
Yeah. Interesting.
Like Digital Courage EV is one of them.
Yeah.
They're a privacy advocacy group, and even political parties are starting to support this.
So this is like going beyond just
Yeah, it's not
techie people.
it's not just the techie people.
Yeah, it's getting more mainstream.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like people are realizing that strong encryption is like really fundamental.
To protecting our privacy.
Yeah.
Especially with all the surveillance that's going on these days.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And one of the sources actually quoted somebody who lived through constant monitoring. They said, "It makes you afraid to speak openly, to express your opinion.
Right.
We can't let that happen again."
Wow, that's
It's a powerful statement.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because if you feel like you're constantly being watched,
Right.
then you're not going to feel free to really express yourself.
Exactly.
So how does derivative cryptography address all this?
Well, it has the potential to be like a real game changer.
Okay.
Because if you don't have to send the keys,
Mm.
then you remove like a huge vulnerability.
Okay.
You remove the risk that somebody could intercept those keys while they're being transmitted.
Like a man-in-the-middle attack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So derivative cryptography just bypasses that whole problem.
Interesting.
And that's where things like Smoke Messenger and Spot On come in. They're putting this into practice using different methods.
Right. So let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
Starting with Smoke Messenger
Okay.
and those Juggernaut keys.
Mm-hmm.
What makes them so special?
Well, they use something called the JPEG protocol.
JPEG.
Yeah. It stands for a password authenticated key exchange,
Okay.
and it relies on something called zero knowledge proofs.
Okay, hold on. Zero knowledge proofs.
Yeah.
You're losing me a little bit.
Okay. So imagine you have to prove that you know a secret
Okay.
without revealing the secret itself.
Okay.
Like if you and a friend had a secret handshake,
Okay.
you could prove to somebody else that you both know it
Right.
by doing it together without actually showing them the moves.
So in this case,
Yeah.
with the Smoke Messenger,
Yeah,
two people can verify they both know the same password.
exactly.
And then that allows them to create the matching keys.
Right.
But nobody else sees the password.
Nobody else sees the password.
Okay.
Yeah, and the source material even uses this term, juggerly. Juggerly.
Yeah, to describe these keys.
Okay.
Like they're some kind of sweet treat.
Okay.
It's a Swiss thing, apparently.
Juggerly. All right, so moving on from sweet-sounding names
Go.
to secret streams keys.
Mm-hmm.
These are part of the spot-on encryption suite.
Yeah.
Are they similar to Juggernaut keys?
They have the same goal.
Okay.
Secure communication without transmitting the keys.
Right.
But Spot On uses a different method.
Okay.
Instead of a shared password,
Okay.
he uses something called the Socialist Millionaire Protocol, or SMP.
Okay. Socialist Millionaire Protocol.
Yeah.
All right, you've got my attention.
So it lets two parties compare secret information
Okay.
without either one revealing what that information is.
So like two millionaires trying to figure out if they have the same amount of money
Exactly.
without showing each other their bank statements.
Without revealing how much money they actually have.
Okay, so again, it's about verifying that you have the same information,
Right.
but not revealing the actual content. Yeah, and the source material even uses this analogy of an Alibaba cave to explain it. Yeah.
Before we go into caves and millionaires,
Okay.
can you explain how this actually works in spot on?
Right.
Like, how does it keep my data safe?
Yeah.
What's the practical application here?
Okay, so imagine you and a friend both have spot-on accounts, right?
Yep.
And each account has like its own unique secret streams key,
Yeah.
kind of like a fingerprint.
A digital fingerprint?
Yeah, a digital fingerprint. And when you start to chat,
Okay.
your devices use that Socialist Millionaire Protocol to compare those keys.
But without actually revealing the keys themselves, right?
Right, without revealing the keys themselves.
Like we talked about before.
Yeah, that's the zero knowledge proof magic.
Okay.
So if the protocol says, hey, you both have matching keys, then both devices can independently generate the same encryption key.
Okay.
It's like having two safes with identical combination locks,
Oh, okay.
but you never had to send the combination.
So you're basically removing that risky moment where the key is like floating around
Yeah, you're getting rid of the middleman.
in the internet.
Yeah, you're cutting out the middleman.
That's pretty cool.
It's very clever.
So both Spot On and Smoke Messenger
Yeah.
are using these different methods to achieve this keyless exchange.
Yeah, they're kind of proving that this idea of derivative cryptography is moving from theory to practice.
Right. It's actually becoming a real thing.
It's becoming a real thing, yeah.
And I feel like this ties into some of the other stuff that our listeners sent about digital sovereignty and cryptographic sovereignty.
Yeah, it all comes down to control, really.
Control. Okay.
Like digital sovereignty is the idea that people and even countries
Okay.
should be able to decide how their own data is used. It's like pushing back against all the forces that are trying to
Take away our privacy.
yeah, erode our online privacy, and cryptographic sovereignty takes it even further.
Okay.
It argues that we should be able to create and use strong encryption. Right.
Without relying on like big tech companies or governments.
So it's about empowering individuals to protect their own data.
Exactly. It's about taking back control.
But what are some practical steps that people can take to actually support these ideas?
Well, the sources highlight a few things.
Okay.
One big thing is supporting open source software.
Open source. Okay.
Yeah, especially open source encryption tools.
Okay.
Because they reduce our reliance on those proprietary systems that might have backdoors or vulnerabilities.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then education is huge.
Education. Okay.
Yeah, the more people understand how encryption works and why it's important, the more they're going to demand stronger privacy protections.
So it all starts with awareness.
Exactly. It all starts with awareness.
Okay, so choose the right tools and spread the word
So the word, yep.
about online privacy.
And we're just scratching the surface here.
Oh, really?
There's even more to this.
Okay.
Like this thing called SMP calling. SMP calling. Okay.
I'm intrigued.
So this takes that Socialist Millionaire Protocol we talked about
Right.
and uses it to establish secure channels,
Okay.
but in a more dynamic way.
Okay.
Like imagine you start a chat with someone
Okay.
using like a basic level of encryption.
Like a typical chat app.
Yeah.
That's maybe not as secure as something like Spot On.
Exactly. And in the background,
Okay.
SMP is running constantly comparing secret information that only you two know.
So even if the initial connection isn't that secure,
Right.
SMP is working to establish a higher level of trust.
Yeah, it's like upgrading the security
Okay.
in the background.
Without interrupting the conversation.
Exactly. It's a pretty cool.
That's really slick.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. And it shows how derivative cryptography, it isn't about just static keys.
Okay.
It's about constantly verifying and adapting
Interesting.
to make sure that communication stays private.
So say I'm already using something like Smoke Messenger with those Juggerknaut keys.
Where does SMP calling fit into that?
Well, that's the interesting part.
Okay.
It could potentially bridge the gap
Okay.
between different levels of security.
Like between like a basic chat app and something more secure.
Yeah, imagine a future where SMP calling is like built into the internet itself,
Wow.
you know?
So it's not even tied to a specific app.
Right. It's just there.
It's like everywhere.
It's in the background.
Okay.
So you start a chat anywhere and SMP is constantly verifying identities
Okay.
and like upgrading the security as needed.
So I could go from like a regular chat to a super secure encrypted chat
Yeah.
without even knowing it.
Seamlessly.
Wow. That's kind of crazy.
It is pretty wild.
But wouldn't that be super complicated to actually make happen?
It would be a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
But the benefits could be huge.
Okay.
Like imagine a world where you don't have to worry about which app is the most secure
Right.
or if your friends are using the same platform. Security and privacy would just be like a a given.
Built in.
Yeah, built in.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the technology. It's like a whole different way of thinking about security.
Exactly. It's about putting individuals in control.
Okay, so to wrap things up,
Yeah.
what's the main takeaway for our listener today?
I think the biggest thing is don't just accept things the way they are.
Okay.
Question the tools you're using and demand better security and privacy.
Okay.
Look into alternative apps like Smoke Messenger and Spot On.
Yeah.
They're really pushing the boundaries here.
Yeah, they are.
And remember, the future of online communication,
Yeah.
it's not set in stone.
Okay.
We're the ones who shape it.
By the choices we make.
Exactly.
Okay, so one final thought.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier that if we don't have to transmit keys anymore,
Yeah.
what does that mean for the future of online communication?
Right. Could derivative cryptography be the key
Okay.
to a truly private and secure internet?
That's a great question to think about.
Yeah.
All right, until next time,
Yeah.
stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure.
Absolutely.